Welcome to Empowered Within, a soul-quenching, transformational podcast that will set your soul on fire through candid and inspiring conversations. Leading experts, celebrities, healers, and I share our journeys of how we've overcome challenges to living an empowered life from within. I'm your host, Jennifer Pilates. Welcome to another episode of Empowered Within. Hey there, welcome to today's show. I am excited to have with us Kyle Sullivan. First and foremost, Kyle is a husband and father. He says it's the group he gets to influence the most. You may be surprised to learn that a D1 athlete, drug dealer, pastor husband, father of two, under two, and founder of a coaching company are all part of Kyle Sullivan's story. Kyle has spent over 10 years leading thousands of men and women to the powerful creation of Unleash the Champ coaching. Welcome to the show, Kyle.
Hey, I am excited to be here. And it's always fun when you hear like, oh man, I really have done all that stuff. It's often, we don't take all the things in part, but when it's combined, it's really cool to hear. So I'm excited to be on today.
Yes, well, I'm honored to have you. And let's start because, I do want to know, how did this all start from the very beginning, D1 athlete to drug dealer to pastor? That's an incredible journey. And I would love to know how that started.
Yeah, so played sports all growing up. I wasn't the little boy that liked trucks and things. It was give me a football, give me a baseball, and I could entertain myself all day long. And so sports was always a part of my life. And so going through high school, I played football, baseball up until high school, and then I did powerlifting. So sports is always a part of my life. A little bit of a curveball is when I got into college. Your listeners can't see this, but I'm about 5'8" on a good day with the right shoes and the right amount of product in my hair. So
love it.
I was just too short to play, and I tried to walk on a team. It wasn't in the cards, but what was in the cards is cheerleading. So the strength and conditioning coach was married to the cheerleading sponsor through a series of events. I try out for the cheerleading squad at this university and make it. And I'd never done anything like that, but we competed nationally, got, trophies and all of that stuff. But in the midst of all of that, my deepest desire for most of my upbringing was to be accepted, to be liked, and that led down some pretty destructive paths. Because when you're constantly trying to be everything to everyone, you lose who you are. You lose who you want to be and your core values. And so led me through partying, joined a fraternity, got introduced to drugs. I'd never been around it, but the drug that I was introduced to, I loved. Your listeners can tell, I have a lot of energy naturally. And so when got introduced to cocaine and to crystal meth and the uppers of the drug stuff, I was hooked. And here's the thing. Most people think drugs and you just become, you're worthless and you're always doing that. I was a fully functioning person in society. I worked a job, I went to school, and I just did a lot of drugs until I got jumped at a drug deal. So one night, like I'd done many other nights, I walked into a party and I didn't realize that I was about to get jumped. And it was that moment that I realized very quickly, I don't know that I want to keep living like this. I don't know if this is the path that I want to go down. Some people, it takes a lot of times hitting rock bottom. Me, I hit the ground, didn't like it, wanted to do something different. And so through all of that, through me partying, through the college, through sports, all of that, I was going to church. My parents, it was, our house, our rules. You're going to go to church. I went to all the retreats. I went to all the camps. I went to all the things. Couldn't stand it. Could not stand church. I was like, y'all talking to this person in the sky and all of this stuff. Couldn't stand it. But in that moment of brokenness, I reached out to one person that I trusted within the church. And I said, I need effing Jesus. I just didn't abbreviate anything. So about 2-3 o'clock in the morning, I accept Christ. I give my life to him. And honestly, by his admission and what we've talked since over the years, he's like, I really thought it was you were high, you had just gotten beat up, you were emotional, and you thought, okay, I'm just going to make an emotional decision. But for me, I woke up the next day and I was like, what do I do now? So I dropped out of college.
Wow.
I moved out of the frat house. I quit everything I had, thought that was going to be my path. I moved in with some guys. That was really my detox. And the next 2-3 months, like I didn't go to a formal rehab. I didn't do any of that. It was a community of people that really was my detox. And I started going to church for the first time for myself. Honestly, it wasn't this amazing experience because I grew up in a small town and I thought I was slick. I thought no one knew what I did. Oh, they did. And so when the frat boy drug dealer shows up at church, people are like, say, what?
Oh my God.
What's he doing here? And of no fault of theirs, that's a pretty logical question.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you, if I didn't have a transformative experience, man, I probably wouldn't have even gone back to church. But I knew that, okay, I wanted to make some changes different for me. So in all of dropping out of school and quitting everything, I got a regular job, 9 to 5. I was working and I just thought, okay, this is gonna be my path. I'm serving. And I think a lesson in my story here is when you're available and you're obedient to whatever the next assignment is, it leads you down a path. So I just said, okay, whatever opportunity comes, my answer is yes. So in a few months, hey, we need somebody to, my first thing was leading a small group. I had a group of middle school guys and smelled like Axe and Red Bull. It was amazing. and I just kept saying yes. Mm-hmm. Well, over that year, I moved from Louisiana, where I'm from, to Arkansas, to a university, and 3.5 years, get my degree, moved to Oklahoma. Within 6 months of being in Oklahoma, I come on staff at a really large church, multiple locations. I think the church is in 39 locations in 11 states now.
Wow.
So wonderful. Really massive, organization and ministry and all of the stuff. And so I'm on staff there from 2012 to 2019. I step off the staff there, which made no sense at all, to go and be a part of another church staff that was kind of on this J curve of exposure and just erupting. We went from a converted grocery store that we were doing church in to we bought an arena. And through that 11 years, all of my roles were around leading people, leading to a next step, developing systems, doing leadership talks. That was my thing in various parts of ministry. Then everything shifted. October 5th, 2019 at 12:47 a.m. is when I held my little girl for the first time. Ms. Piper Grace Sullivan came into the world and she comes out. Everything's great. They put her in the little bassinet. She's minutes old. And they say, all right, Mr. Sullivan, you could take her to the room. Well, your wife will be in a few minutes. I'm like, what? So I get this little bassinet and no nurse is coming with me. All of a sudden, they trust me to keep this little baby alive. And I'm pushing the little bassinet and I'm elated. It's emotional. It's all this stuff. And I make an agreement in my head. And I say, Piper Grace, I'm going to give you presence of time, not just presence of things. And that was the agreement. I had no clue how that was going to happen. Now, if you're listeners, we all, October 2019, March of 2020, something pretty significant happened to all of us. Mm-hmm. This little thing called the pandemic. And so, like everybody, everything shuts down. We don't know what's happening. Everything shut down. We're working from home. People trying to figure out Zoom and, they're muted and all of this stuff. But what happens to me is for the first time in 11 years, I'm spending more time than ever before with my family. I'm spending more time than ever before with my new little girl who, when all of this hit, was 4 months old. And June of 2020, I'm on a Zoom call. Everybody's muted, and our lead pastor is telling us we're coming back to the office. Coming back to the office is amazing. Everybody's cheering. I do what everybody does, and I'm like, yeah! Jennifer, I heard 2 words. It's time. Now, I'm saying it's time for what? Hear the words, ask the question. That's me. And it's time. So my wife's working from home. So I text her and I said, hey, are you in a meeting? She said, no. I said, okay, great. Can you come? Like, I'm a rip the Band-Aid kind of cat.
Uh-oh.
So she comes in and I said, hey, I think I'm supposed to quit my job. Now, she says, oh, now for the husbands listening, when your significant other gets a couple octaves higher, choose the next words carefully.
Amen to that.
And she goes, oh, what are you going to do? And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And I said, I think I want to go and dive into this coaching thing. Now, what was happening behind the scenes is for about 2.5 years, I'd been dabbling in researching coaching. Been doing a lot of work on myself, been doing a lot of work on my mindset, been doing a lot of practices. And my thought was, I'm going to be really successful in ministry. And then when I get older, then I'll say, oh, I'll coach younger people to do what I've done over, decades of time.
Sure. Makes sense. That's the status quo, right?
That's the status quo. That's not what our path was. That's not what our plan was. So I tell her, hey, I want to give this coaching thing a go. She's like, what are you going to do? I was like, I don't know, but I think I want to do this. And Jennifer, my wife, who is amazing for me, because your listeners can probably tell I'm the jump out of the plane, throw me the parachute. If I catch it, great. If not, we'll recover. It's fine. My wife is my anchor. She is amazingly risk adverse naturally, which is great for me. We're wonderful together. She gets a smirk on her face. She said, well, Kyle, I think you may be the last person to realize what you should be doing. Silence. I said, what? And she says, Kyle, you've been doing this for a decade. You've been doing this the whole time you've been in ministry. I guess I have. I guess I can do this. So 2 weeks later, I leave a ministry career of 11 years, really prominent, really influence heavy, getting to lead a bunch of stuff, to nothing. With a wife that's working from home, an 8-month-old little girl. And I mean, the insurance was with me. The salary was with me, went to zero. And through that, Unleash the Champ was born.
That is beautiful. What an encouraging story for every man and woman out there who has that fear of, but what about my health insurance? But what about this? But what about that? Sometimes you just have to take the leap of faith.
Yeah, 100%. And the lesson that I learned really quickly is when we are battling a decision. I know there's people listening to this right now that's like, man, I got this thing. I have this idea. I have this product. When we go back and forth in our minds, what we're looking for is peace. What we're looking for is confidence. And I've learned and continue to learn that peace follows our obedience. It rarely precedes it. So I was going back and forth in my head until I made the decision. And then it was like, all right, this is what's happening. I was going back and forth. Oh, should I do this? Should I not? Should I do this? Should I not? Make a decision. All of a sudden you got peace. Doesn't mean that you're not afraid. Doesn't mean that you're not like, I don't know if this is going to work.
Right.
But once you make a decision, peace and confidence follows your action.
Amazing words. And it's so true. So what truly led you out of the comfort zone and out of your security? There's still people out there going, that is so easy to say, Kyle. And Jennifer, I don't know if you're buying this, but I'm scared to jump. Like, I want wings. How do you help guide those listeners? And what advice do you give them? I'm sure it wasn't easy for you.
Absolutely not. I said, I'm 51% sure that this will work. So if you're sitting here, you're listening, and you're going, that's great, Kyle. Kudos to you. Well done, you. I can't do this. You probably can't. That's just a fact of the matter. But if you say, I think I can. It's like, my daughter's now 2 and some change. She got the little engine that could. We read that book. I think I can. 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 Yeah, strong probability. So it starts with your belief. You can have an idea, but when you attach the idea to the belief, then you can actually start making steps towards it. And so I don't encourage people to do what I did. I encourage people, as I work with people that want to be coaches and things, I'm like, kind of save up some money, get some clientele, get some testimony. I just burn the boats. So don't do what I did unless you feel you should. Then do what I did.
Right.
But if you're listening, you're going, man, how do I do this? What are the small steps that you can take today to research what it could be, to Google who's doing something that you want to do? Like, we live in a world where my coach and mentor says, if you don't know something, that's fine. If you don't know something 5 minutes later, it's your fault.
Right. Hi, Google.
Hi, Google. Right. And so take the small step. And I encourage people to set like obnoxiously small goals that it would be ignorant to not hit them. So if you want, I want to build this massive business. Okay, great. That's awesome. But could you talk to one person about your vision? Could you talk to one person a day about your vision? Okay, I could do that. And then over a 12-month time, 365 people know about the vision inside your heart. Probability that some of them say, hey, I want that too. And so it's about setting those small, attainable goals that lead to the massive results. It's not going to be, okay, hey, I start this thing and instantly I'm a millionaire. It's amazing. Like, could it happen? It could. Is it probable? Not likely.
No.
Because I know for me, if I hadn't gone through the struggle, I would not be prepared to do what I'm doing now. There were times where I'm like, wifey, we got more month at the end of the money. We need it. If it ain't formula, diapers, wipes, we don't need it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's through that. I think we have to give people that want to step out, that want to have their wings. We got to tell them, hey, look, it's going to be hard, but it is always worth it. It's always going to present challenges, but you probably have challenges with what you're doing now. And so choose your heart, choose the challenges you want. And once you get to that 51%, jump.
How much do you feel that being a pastor for all those years really propelled you into coaching? Or do you feel that, like, would you almost say all along that's kind of what you were? I mean, truly, when you think of a pastor, like, how much more motivational and inspirational and empowering can one get?
Yeah, 100%. It's me pastoring was the preparation for the platform I have now. And, like I said in the beginning, that's what I've been doing for 11 years. It's just now doing it on, a larger scale, a different scale. I wouldn't even say larger, a different scale. And so that's the benefit. But I will say also, being a pastor hurt me when I started my business. I wanted to help everybody. I call it the pastor problem. Because I was like, I'm going to help everybody. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. And I got a list of clients that I'm like, I sold them a bag of goods. Like, I can't fulfill on that. So I had to go back and apologize and did, whatever. But it was definitely my ability to communicate, my ability to share stories, my ability to lead people to action. All of those things were cultivated being a pastor. And really my empathy, my intuition from leading and being in front of thousands of people over that 11-year span makes it to where now it's like, okay, yeah, I can see what's being said. I can hear what's not being said. And it's definitely prepared me for what I have now.
That is beautiful. What one moment are you most proud of to date within your business?
When I got started. Really, before I even got started. So this is a cool story. So I had a meeting scheduled with my boss when I was still on staff, and I knew, hey, I needed to step off the team. And so through a series of things, the meeting wasn't able to happen. He got pulled away, whatever, is going to be rescheduled the next day. And I get down to my car, And I sit in my car and I feel this prompting that says, your action and obedience is not dictated on his schedule. Now, listen here, listeners. I'd have you consider that sometimes you let circumstances outside of your control impact your action that you know you should take. So what did I do? I got my phone, I sat in the driver's seat of my car, and that's how I resigned. I sent a 2-minute and 50-something second video, and I said, hey, this is not how I'd like to do it, but I have to take action. I have to be obedient to my intuition and to my prompting. Now, the next day we did talk and everything, but like that. But that's probably the proudest moment, is getting started. Another proud moment is everything that it's done to bring my wife and I closer together. There's plenty of those, but I think the most one is when I got started, despite opposition, despite my own head telling me, you are nuts, but going forward anyway.
I always find that in those moments, and you can tell me if you feel the same way, when I feel like I'm doing like something so crazy nuts, and if someone finds out about it, that's exactly what they say. Those are the things that I'm truly supposed to be doing. Is that most uncomfortable thing, and you're like, yep, that's what I got to do.
100%. Yeah. If there's this tingling in you, there's like, yeah, go do that.
Yeah, do that now. Do that now.
If you hear something and you're like, you're probably not supposed to do that yet. Mm-hmm. Our intuition always guides us.
It truly does. And I love that you have shared with listeners different ways to look outside of the box. And it's something I'm always encouraging my clients when they're thinking about work or life. Sometimes just that shift in perspective, thinking of a pastor as your coach. You know, that's a big, like, I'm sure I can just feel how many people are like, whoa. And who may be feeling that same thing going, wow, like I knew that there was more for me, but I didn't think outside that box because I'm labeled as this. And it's 100%. Okay. If nothing else, these last few years, we really have been breaking out of boxes. And I think that your story is such an incredible, empowering one of showing that, you know, even doing more of what you were doing, and probably even in some respects on a greater global aspect. And here 100%. You were doing amazing work anyways, and you went to more amazing work. And that's what we want our listeners to know. Like, you could be amazing now, but imagine how much more amazing you could be tomorrow by really doing what you want to do.
100%. And there's a guy I follow pretty closely, Ed Milet, and he was sharing on a podcast one time that it just blew my mind. So he's a faith-based guy, has a relationship with Jesus, and he was talking about his idea of what happens as soon as we pass from this earth to eternity. And, you know, it talks about in the Bible, like, you'll give an account for your life. Mm-hmm. He said, I view that a little bit differently. He goes, it's not based in Bible, but this is how I view it. That I'm going to see a film. I'm going to see a film of this life in front of me. And it's not going to be the life I lived, because I believe I'll have memory of that, but rather it's going to be the life that I could have lived. And I'm going to see these things pass by me. And he said, my goal is to have the life I remember and the life I see be as closely connected as possible. And it only happens through taking risks. That only happens with saying, maybe this will work. And for me, a big driving piece of it is, I mean, as soon as my daughter was born, as soon as now my son was born, I future paced the conversation that they would come to me one day and they have a decision to make. They're in a dilemma, whether they go with what's secure and safe and comfortable, or what could work for them, what could pay off. And I, as their dad, want to give them stories, not theory, of what's possible if you bet on yourself, if you take the risk, you take the lumps. And I didn't want the story to play out, yeah, you should do it. You should do it. It's amazing. And they look at me and say, well, Dad, you never did. So I want to model, not just share theory.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you're doing an excellent job of that. That's for sure. What has been your biggest aha moment from your years in Louisiana to now your life as a coach and a father and a husband? Like, 10 seconds, like, whoa, that was like such a moment for you. What is that moment?
That we need to be selfish with ourselves. We live in a world where being selfish is looked down on. But in 2018, my wife and I were in a place in our marriage where she said, hey, I feel like we're roommates. I was getting a lot of success ministry-wise. I was getting a lot of influence. I was getting to speak on stages and all of this stuff. And I was giving everything to everyone outside of the four walls of my house. And when I made the decision that I was going to take care of me first, I was going to develop me first, I was going to invest in me first, everything else around me got better. When I started going to counseling, everything around me got better. When I invested in a coach, everything around me got better. When I said, no matter what, I'm going to take care of my body, everything else around me got better. When I started being selfish for me and understanding that I can't be anything to anyone if I'm not everything to me.
That is huge and impactful. That to find self-love and self-value and self-worth, that's the goal. That's the goal at the end of the rainbow right there.
That's right. And it just, my wife and I can look back on so much that started to shift in 2018 when I made that decision. And I'll be honest, and she would say this, there are times where my commitment to myself frustrates her, and I'm okay with that. And she is okay with that ultimately because it's, hey, I got to do this because I want to be everything I need to be for you, for the kiddos, for our community of people. And if I don't invest in me, I can't show up fully for you.
Right. I love that sentiment. And I know that so many people, we need to continue to hear that every day and not backslide into maybe where we were 3-4 years ago. Exactly what you're saying, spending more time with family, finding self-love and self-worth, and finding that passion that's in your heart and following it.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's, I think when we get to the place where we are okay if it doesn't work, then we'll truly start pushing things forward.
True. Very true. Well, Kyle, we are getting to this time in the show where I ask this one question. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What is one thing that no one knows about Kyle Sullivan?
Oh, I think for me, I doubt myself more than people would believe. It's, people call it imposter syndrome. I just think I've realized so much in my life I was projecting a character that I thought I needed to be. And so there's a lot of times where I doubt myself. I think, oh man, they're going to find out. But I continue to push forward into the person that I want to be. But I doubt a whole lot more than I let on.
I appreciate you being so authentic with that. And I know I myself, and I'm sure plenty of listeners can go, yep, we're right there with you, Kyle.
Yeah, man, what is it? Yeah. It's that.
It's that pause. It's that awkward pause before you make action and decisions. That's what that is.
Absolutely. It's the mental battle in your head of like, are we about to go there? Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's go there.
Yeah, let's really go there. Awesome. Well, Kyle, will you share with our listeners where they can best connect with you and learn more about you and get some coaching with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm most active on Instagram, on social media. So at Kyle J. Sullivan. You can listen to my podcast, Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast. We do episodes every Monday. And if you want to email me directly, kyle@kylejsullivan.com. I'd love to hear from y'all.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kyle, so much for coming on the show, for sharing your incredible journey, your inspiration, your personal development and growth. This has been so awesome today. We've had so much fun. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer.
All right. Well, as we say, until next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to Empowered Within with Jennifer Pilates. Your feedback is important. It helps me to connect with you and gives me insight into who you are and what you're enjoying about the show. For today's show notes and discount codes from today's sponsors, head over to jenniferpilates.com. Until next time, may you live an empowered life from within.